Dustbin Lid Shield. Before Steve Rogers ever touched vibranium, his first act of defiance was fought with nothing more than a trash can lid. In the streets of Brooklyn, long before he was a super soldier, Steve showed that his courage didn't come from muscles or science, it came from an unshakable will to stand up to bullies. When the scrawny kid from Brooklyn got cornered, he grabbed the nearest thing he could find, a dented metal bin lid. It was clumsy, flimsy, and barely big enough to cover his chest, but it did the job. More importantly, it symbolized Steve's instinct to protect, even when outmatched. This moment foreshadowed everything that would define Captain America. Not the shield itself, but the spirit behind it. Every future shield, no matter how advanced, traces its legacy back to that lid in an alley. Car door shield. Fast forward to Steve's transformation into a super soldier. No longer the weakling from the alley, Steve chased down a Hydra agent moments after receiving the serum. With bullets flying his way, he instinctively lifts the door off the ground and uses it as a makeshift shield. The detail most fans love is that the car's door bore a circular logo with a star in the middle. It looked almost identical to the shield he would later carry. Whether intentional foreshadowing or a clever Easter egg, this moment marked Steve's first time wielding something that resembled his iconic symbol. The cab door shield showed a new side of Cap. Not just someone brave enough to fight, but now someone with the power to back it up. It was still makeshift, still improvised, but it marked his first real step toward becoming Captain America. USO Shield. When Steve officially became Captain America, it wasn't as a soldier. It was as a performer. The US Army turned him into a propaganda tool, parading him around in a costume to sell war bonds. And in his hand, the USO Shield. This early shield was painted to mimic the American flag, complete with bold stripes and a star. It was made of sturdy metal, but it wasn't meant for battle. On stage, Steve used it as a prop, even holding his lines behind it. Yet when he finally stepped off the stage and into real combat, the shield became more than theater. During his first rescue mission, Steve used the USO shield to block enemy fire. For the first time, this symbol of entertainment became a symbol of survival. And in that moment, Steve went from mascot to soldier. While this shield was eventually replaced, its importance can't be understated. It bridged the gap between Captain America the performer and Captain America the hero. The OG Shield. The symbol that would define not just Steve Rogers, but an entire era of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The round vibranium shield designed by Howard Stark. This wasn't just a weapon. Forged from the only vibranium the United States had at the time, the shield was unique, nearly indestructible, and scientifically ahead of its time. When Steve first held it, the shield wasn't painted at all. It was a plain silver disc, smooth and unfinished. Peggy Carter famously tested its strength by firing several shots into it.
Yes, I think it worked.
Leaving Steve both surprised and impressed. Only later was the patriotic paint applied, giving the shield its bold red, white, and blue identity with a star at the center. From that point on, it became as iconic as the man himself. Over the decades, the shield evolved. In The Winter Soldier, Cap used a stealth variant painted navy blue for covert operations. In Age of Ultron, Stark added electromagnetic panels, letting Cap recall the shield mid-fight like it was second nature. The shield absorbed impacts, defied physics, and was both a defensive wall and an offensive weapon. But it wasn't invincible. Black Panther's claws left their mark, a reminder that vibranium wasn't without limits. And of course, Thanos proved that point brutally in Endgame when he shattered it with his double-bladed sword. Watching the unbreakable shield finally break was more than just destruction of metal, it was the shattering of a symbol. And yet, every time it was rebuilt, every time it returned, the shield carried more weight. It wasn't just a circle of vibranium, it was a legacy, passed through decades, battles, and eventually to Sam Wilson. Vibranium Wakanda Shield. But there was a period where Cap fought without his iconic disc. After Civil War, Steve abandoned the round shield, leaving it behind when he broke ties with Tony Stark. During that time, he entered Infinity War without the weapon most associated with him. Instead, Wakanda stepped in. King T'Challa, understanding what was at stake, ordered new shields to be crafted for Steve.
Get this man a shield.
These weren't circular, instead they were twin gauntlet-style vibranium shields, one mounted on each forearm. They were sleek, angular, and built for a completely different style of combat. Unlike his classic shield, which balanced offense and defense, these Wakandan shields leaned heavily into close-quarters fighting. They were perfect for Steve's more brutal, grounded style during Infinity War. Unlike the iconic disc, they weren't throwable. They didn't ricochet or perform impossible physics tricks. Instead, they were raw tools of survival, allowing Cap to go toe-to-toe with Thanos' army in the Battle of Wakanda. Symbolically, the Wakandan shields represented a Captain America in transition. This wasn't the idealistic symbol of American values anymore. This was a soldier without a country, stripped of his identity, fighting not as Captain America, but simply as Steve Rogers. They were shields for a man who had lost his place in the world, yet kept fighting anyway.